Greetings, I am Randall Wakamoto, branch head of our Stormwater Quality Division under our Department of Facility Maintenance within the City and County of Honolulu, connecting to you all the way from our beautiful state of Hawaii, your next stop in this 24-hour journey around the world of water. The City and County of Honolulu Department of Facility Maintenance has partnered with the Water Environment Federation to share an update on our stormwater management program, including the future possibility of establishing a dedicated stormwater utility for our island. I'm hoping that this brief overview is informative and beneficial for you as a stormwater professional. As mentioned, I'd like to take this opportunity to update you on Oahu's stormwater management program under the City and County of Honolulu, Hawaii. Start off, wanted to give you some context on some of those guiding principles that has been the foundation for what we are trying to accomplish. Back in 2015, the Hawaii Community Foundation, a local nonprofit organization, had adopted its freshwater initiative where they established long-term goals of preserving our island's natural resources, including replenishing our groundwater aquifers that is the primary means of our state's drinking water sources. The Freshwater Initiative laid the groundwork in order to create a sustainable future for generations to come, such as adding an additional 100 million gallons per day to our freshwater capacity by 2030. In order to get there, the initiative recommended that there needed to be more green infrastructure measures done. Similarly, through our current administration under its Office of Climate Change, Sustainability, and Resiliency, the Mayor's Office had developed what is referred to as the Oahu's Resiliency Strategy. That strategy outlined a number of measures focused on conservation, flood mitigation, and environmental benefits, including the adoption of a stormwater utility to help fund the stormwater management programs. Each of these initiatives and strategies were instrumental for our department to move forward with proposing to establish a stormwater utility here within the City and County of Honolulu. The intent and purpose of the utility would be to create positive change to encourage and incentivize best practices to conserve and reuse stormwater runoff, allowing for increased infiltration to help replenish our local groundwater supplies and help mitigate pollution sources to improve the quality of our nearshore waters. These are all important goals and initiatives in order to prepare for the long-term effects of global warming, climate change, and sea level rise. Here in Oahu, when it comes to stormwater management, it is important to realize that it doesn't fall under one particular department, such as the Department of Public Works, which doesn't exist in the City and County of Honolulu. Instead, we all collectively understand that it is a shared responsibility by all departments, which, as you can imagine, presents many different unique challenges and obstacles. To get a better understanding of those challenges, I'm sharing with you on this slide an overview of the stormwater system in County of Honolulu is responsible with operating, maintaining, and replacing. Bottom line is that it is a significant amount of responsibility. On top of that, through City Council, it was required that our department be responsible for addressing the many stored property issues as it relates to homeless encampments, which, as you can probably already know, has a significant impact to water quality based on the amount of trash that is generated from these encampments. Additionally, the state has required that the City and County of Honolulu address much of the island's erosional issues that occurs within many of its stream embankments and rights-of-way. Through it all, based on our calculation, it has been determined that the city has currently been expending around $91.6 million per year on its stormwater management program. Of that, $70 million comes from the property taxes, while the remainder is funded from the highway funds. With all of those responsibilities in mind, of course, there are a number of challenges that come along with it. Some of it is due to a lack of funding. Others are because of staffing issues, where there exists a high level of vacancies in many departments, in which succession planning is extremely critical and important. From a regulatory standpoint, we can anticipate that the stormwater permit requirements will only get more stringent, particularly when it comes to TMDLs, retrofitting of our MS4 system, and developing a long-term trash reduction program. In order to elevate ourselves to truly becoming a fully functioning, comprehensive program, whereby balancing the needs of our communities, complying with all of the regulatory requirements of the permit, yet managing itself more efficiently and cost-effectively, we needed to look at things more holistically by performing more long-term planning in order to adapt to future needs rather than being reactionary mode most of the time. To get there, we felt it was important that we need to establish a dedicated stormwater utility here in Honolulu. A stormwater utility, as we presented, would change how the stormwater management program would be funded by converting to a fee-based system versus funded primarily from property taxes through the city's general fund. By going this route, all properties will be required to pay, including much of the state, federal, and local government, as well as a lot of your non-taxable properties that were previously exempted from paying property taxes. This would in effect make it more equitable and not just rely on just our residents and businesses with paying the lion's share of the fees. We'd also be establishing a special fund where fees collected would go into this fund that would be dedicated towards stormwater management services only. And lastly, there would be opportunities for financial credits offered to all properties that would incentivize positive behaviors that would help mitigate the effects of stormwater runoff. So why would we want to adopt a stormwater fee? Well, for one reason, it would provide a predictable and stable source of funding on a year-to-year basis. In addition, it would help provide the ability to do more long-range planning because of the stable source of revenues to facilitate better permit compliance and be used to leverage funds to obtain grants and support the ability to take on debt service to help fund the larger capital improvement program. It would also create more transparency with the public and others since there would be better accountability as you would know how much revenue comes in each year and you would know what was being spent annually for stormwater management purposes. The Stormwater Fund would of course be audited on a regular, consistent basis, which would help create better public awareness and participation. When we started scoping out the roadmap for establishing a stormwater utility, it was decided from the beginning that it would be broken down into 3 major phases, focused on getting the community engaged as early as possible. As we knew it, it would be a difficult journey, one that would require a lot of public involvement and education. The first phase, that began in the first half of 2019, focused on developing certain technical studies, which included a comprehensive cost analysis study, as well as launching a dedicated website. The second phase, that began around the middle of 2019, included the establishment of a stakeholder advisory group, with the assistance and grant funding provided by the Hawaii Community Foundation, resulted in creating a group of around 26 representatives from the business community, government agencies, academic, design professionals, land development, environmental groups, and various neighborhood board districts. Lastly, we proceeded with conducting a number of focused community outreach at multiple venues and events beginning in 2020, as I'll describe in a later slide. During our Phase 1 analysis, where a detailed cost of service study had been performed to identify how much the city was actually spending on its stormwater management program, if you remember earlier, I had stated it was calculated at roughly around $91.7 billion annually. That detailed analysis was subsequently refined and expanded to look further into various budget scenarios that were presented to our stakeholders. Those scenarios were labeled as your first, basic compliance, second, better program, and third, ideal program, all incrementally resulting in higher overall costs. Ultimately, it was decided to bring forward to the public what is now referred to as the Plan C alternative that was based off the better program, but took into account the issuance of revenue bonds that would take effect in year 4 once the utility was adopted to help fund the city's capital improvement program along with funding all of its vacancies. Applying these total annual level of service costs and distributing it amongst all of the known properties on the island resulted in the draft fees being estimated between $4.75 to $4.85 per 1,000 square feet of impervious area. The average median single-family residential property on Oahu is calculated at around 3,900 square feet of impervious area. Hence, the monthly fees for an average residential property would be around $12 to $16 per month prior to any credits or rebates. From a national standpoint, it was determined that these fees would place Honolulu somewhere in the middle, similar to ones implemented in the city of Mission, Kansas, and Boulder, Colorado. When we presented this information to our community outreach, we emphasized that some of the primary benefits that would be realized with the adoption of a stormwater fee would result in more frequent street maintenance and cleaning, increased green infrastructure implementation and maintenance, more proactive drainline inspections, cleaning and repairs, and better opportunities to secure grant funding and establish additional partnerships. Much of this information has been posted on our dedicated website that was designed specifically for the study, as shown here on this slide. The website can be accessed by going to stormwaterutilityoahu.org. Right off the homepage, it contains a really helpful short animated video clip that runs about 3.5 minutes long that provides a great high-level overview on what a stormwater utility is about and why we feel it is important. The site also contains all of our stakeholder advisory group meeting minutes and presentations that provides much of the technical information of ours. The website has been such a very instrumental tool in helping to get the message out to the public. Due to time constraints and avoiding with getting too much into the details, I just wanted to take this opportunity to express our deepest appreciation and gratitude to our stakeholder advisory group members. Their dedication, participation, and feedback has been invaluable. Without their involvement, much of what I'm presenting here would not be possible. Here you can see the outline of tasks and schedule that we had established at the beginning of this journey that started roughly a month ago from today, back in August 2019. The time has sure flown by. However, here we have another slide of their early task that was asked of our stakeholders, in which they came up with the core values that was the driving force and consistent messaging that we stayed throughout the entire process. Based on their input, those core values focused on clean water, healthy and safe environment, community involvement, and a shared responsibility. Whenever we went out to the public, those core values followed us throughout the process. Again, attempting to establish any new type of fee structure, we knew it would be a tall order, especially in an area such as Hawaii, where the cost of living is one of the highest in the nation. It would be especially important to get the word out. Our approach came from multiple fronts, whether through social media, print, TV public service announcements, or other means. The funny thing is that we found out that the most effective means was through word of mouth. It really helped that folks just passed the message on to their neighbors, coworkers, and family members, despite whether they were either for or against the measure. It really didn't matter to us, just as long as they were informed and participated in our conversations. That's what was the most important. It is hard to believe that prior to COVID-19 becoming a global pandemic, we were actually meeting in person just a few months ago, around early February through March 2020. We ended up hosting a total of 18 in-person meetings at each of the neighborhood board districts island-wide to get folks' comments and feedback. To comment times and seemed such a long time ago, but really gave our team great perspective. Unfortunately, shortly thereafter, our administration and the department, after considering all of its options, decided that it was best that the city defer any introduction of bills in 2020 to establish a stormwater utility due to the high financial hardship and impacts that COVID-19 has had on our local businesses and residents. We intend to revisit this issue at a later date that hasn't been determined yet. However, it will be definitely taken into consideration the local economic and unemployment numbers that have been restored. Once COVID-19 became a reality for all of us, the game plan seemingly changed overnight. However, it didn't stop our team from still proceeding with attempting to reach out to all of our communities and constituents. Our second round of community meetings were followed up with a downscaled approach with a total of 9 virtual meetings scheduled during the month of May 2020. Obviously, there were some challenges with adjusting to this new format and technology, and I'm sure there were those in the public that we wouldn't be able to connect with, but still, it provided new perspectives that was very refreshing. Which now brings us to where we are today. Looking ahead in 2021, our department is still committed to bringing forward a stormwater fee and establishing a stormwater utility here in Honolulu. The timeline, of course, when it comes to fruition is uncertain, but will be dependent on when things return back to a new normal. In the meantime, we are looking towards developing a more detailed credits and rebates manual that will provide the necessary information of what all properties will be able to obtain. In addition, we are continuing to look at refining the numbers as additional data gets inputted, so expect that we will be recalculating the fee rate structure, as well as obtaining new aerial imagery data soon, in order to demonstrate how fees are calculated and applied for each property based on their available impervious cover, including the most current parcel boundary mapping, which is part of the city's available GIS dataset. Recently, we have been having conversations with our stakeholder advisory group members to get their continued commitment heading into the new year, as there are many things that need to be resolved, including the issue pertaining to revenue neutrality and program development, which brings me to the possibility of creating a comprehensive stormwater master plan and green infrastructure plan, which we know are essential for the City and County of Honolulu to get us to that next level. We're also preparing for the next round of community engagement when the time comes, if and when a draft ordinance is presented to our City Council for adoption. These initiatives and next steps are all part of our long-term strategy to transition from just the feasibility phase to implementation. With the impending elections coming up in the next couple of months, we are preparing ourselves for whoever will be the next elected mayor. That will determine what direction and next steps will be necessary to bring the utility. So definitely stay tuned. Thanks again for allowing me to give you a little glimpse of what the City and County of Honolulu is currently undertaking. Before I conclude, I just wanted to close out by thanking all of your numerous consultants that have contributed to this study, including our lead technical experts at Birchline Planning, Jacobs, and AECOM Technical Services, our lead facilitator at Kearns and West, and Hastings and Pleadwell. We hope that you will enjoy connecting from your place to our space as we get ready for a dynamic and immersive virtual experience that brings together thousands of water professionals for 5 days of learning, networking, and discovering new ways to serve our communities, both now and in the future. Count down and power up for WEFTech Connect.
In Hawaii, water is life and essential to keeping our home beautiful and healthy. It's our responsibility, our kuleana, to care for our ocean and island. From mauka to makai, rain flows downhill. Some is absorbed by plants and trees, and some goes into the ground, replenishing our groundwater supply, where it becomes the potable water, that is our drinking water, we use in our homes, schools, gardens, and businesses. But the places where we live and work are packed with impervious surfaces that don't absorb the rainwater, and because water can't soak down through the impervious cover, that is less water for our drinking water supply. Stormwater that can't get into the ground flows quickly, picking up dirt, pesticides, oil, dog poop, and trash from the land as it runs into streams or into catch basins and pipes, before spilling into oceans untreated. This means we and our ocean neighbors have a problem: polluted water and less water for our natural lands, plants, animals, and citizens who need it. So how can you help? Everyone can help protect our water by doing things like sweeping and reducing hard surfaces around homes and buildings. Green infrastructure helps to keep water clean and put it back into the ground for water supply. And there's no substitute for the City and County of Honolulu's active stormwater management programs. The need for these programs constantly grows to keep up with pollution problems and comply with federal clean water and nearshore water laws. Stormwater management and green infrastructure take time and money, so we all need to chip in and help pay for a comprehensive and sustainable program that we all can be proud of. In 2020, the City and County will be studying the best plan and options for forming a stormwater utility on Oahu. 2,000 cities on the US and Canada mainland have formed stormwater utilities to make stormwater funding more consistent and more equitable for everyone. In a stormwater utility, a fee is charged to every property based on how much impervious cover they own. The more that's paved, the more that's paid. Everyone pays their proportional share of the cost. Non-taxable properties pay too, which takes some of the burden off residential and commercial properties, provides equity, and ensures that the responsibility for our waters is shared by all. The goal is to protect our waters, install and maintain green infrastructure, and make stormwater funding fair, consistent, and transparent. Best of all, every property owner can reduce their stormwater utility bill. There will be credits to reduce your bill by putting in green infrastructure or simply depaving. Everyone, from a single ohana to a shop, school, or airport, can be part of the solution and get money back. Community involvement is key. You can have a say in how the stormwater utility fee is set up and how the funds are spent. Different areas of the island can have different programs and priorities based on your community needs as we work together to manage stormwater. To do what's best for our island, our water, and our future, we want to hear your ideas. Visit us at stormwaterutilityOahu.org to learn more and help keep our oceans happy and our water plentiful and clean.